So it felt like doing some more content, but didn't quite know what I wanted to do a video on. Um, so went looking, searched in for proof of God again, and found absolutely nothing that looked interesting to cover. So I decided let's look up ARON debunked, see if we come across anything. And what I found was toggle this video from the channel What Do You Meme? So it's verified, so that's a plus at 530,000 subscribers. Yeah, I mean they have some attention. Don't know what exact content they put out, but production quality's there, what have you. But this is a video titled "The Blind Faith of Believing ARON on Christian Faith." Lots of comments, lots of people, I don't want to say talking smack about ARON per se, but it's actually some pretty interesting discussion. And so I thought, this might be a good one to watch blind because, again, I like ARON, but everyone has their quirks, everyone has their flaws. People sometimes can express these things in such a way to where, you can look at it and it's like, yeah, I like this person, but I can see this flaw, or vice versa. So I don't know. I just feel like it's going to make for some interesting watching. It's not super long. Um, I don't see myself as getting super pissed off on this one per se. Um, this is more of a chance to just give this a shot. It is a 5-year-old video, but it's still up. It's part of a playlist on ARON, so I guess the guy still feels this way, or otherwise feels this has value on the internet. So double checking that our aspect ratio is good on Restream. It is, and let us go.
Hey guys, I don't have enough blind faith to believe that Aaron Raw has a clue what he's talking about.
Wah, wah, wah. It's ARON. And, that was Hovind should take a lesson from this guy. That joke was actually delivered as a joke. He's got that stupid grin where he's fully self-aware even as he said it, that this was so lame, but he went on and made it the intro of the video. So props to him. Stupid joke. Knowing it's stupid, rolled with it. That's what we like to see.
So someone sent me a video that they wanted to hear my response to. It was a video from Aaron Raw, who's the former president of the Atheist Alliance of America and the regional director of the American Atheists. He put out a video a while back called "Theism is Not Rational," in which he responds to a video from Peter Kraft, who's a philosophy professor at Boston College. Now, I'm pretty busy these days working on the documentary and traveling a lot, and also working full time, but once I saw this video, I just couldn't resist. So hang tight, because man, this should be rich.
Okay, and all about this overblown intro. Okay, there's not much to it. I'm gonna mute for that bit though.
Primarily be dealing with his arguments against faith, and
doing that muting strictly because these bigger creators, they'll have license agreements and it becomes with like music and stuff, or sometimes it's self-produced stuff, but I don't know. Point is, didn't want to get flagged for some bullshit that happened with a Matt Powell video, and I'm a little pissed. So, yeah.
and why he seemingly considers belief in God to be irrational because of it. After hearing his argument, I've come to the conclusion that believing that Aaron Raw has a clue what he's talking about when it comes to faith is what's really irrational.
I'm going to be a bit of a dick here and say, if you can't pronounce the name correctly, that's kind of demonstrating a problem right there. Okay, it's ARON, not Aaron. It's not hard. You hear someone say it once, you realize, oh, it's ARON. Okay, I now know this.
Bold claim? Let's see. So, are you guys ready? Then let's go!
Is it rational to believe in God? Many people think that faith and reason are opposites, that belief in God and tough-minded logical reasoning are like oil and water. They are wrong. Belief in God is far more rational than atheism.
No, sir.
Okay, so we've got a video we're watching where dude is watching ARON's video, where ARON is watching a freaking PragerU video. Turtles all the way down, man.
You are wrong. Given that a god is a magical anthropomorphic immortal, evidently imagined out of nothing by superstitious primitives who didn't understand anything in the natural world around them, it is already irrational to imagine that such a thing actually exists.
Oh boy, here we go.
But belief in God requires faith. According to a consensus of dictionaries, scriptural references, hymns, sermons of theologians past and present, all reveal that faith is an assertion of unreasonable conviction assumed without reason and defended against all reason, meaning that people of strong faith refuse to reason, reject reason, will not be reasoned with.
So Aaron Ross says that.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. At its core, faith is an internal willing of something to be real, is a way I'd simplify that. I'd condense that. Through pure strength of will, you convince yourself that what isn't evidently real is real, as opposed to faith in the trust usage, which of course lots of people like Calvin like to pull the pull the what's the words I'm trying to do? Damn it! False equivocation. That's it. I need to add a few letters to that. Equivocation. It's the same thing. So I guess this guy's going to explain to us why what ARON said is not the case. Why his analysis and broad look at things and look at a consensus doesn't show that as being the broadly accepted definition of the concept. Let's see.
That dictionaries, scripture, hymns, sermons, and theologians all reveal that faith is an assertion of unreasonable conviction assumed without reason and defended against all reason. Is that so? So that's what Aaron Raw thinks Christianity means by faith. But what does Christianity actually say that faith is according to the Bible? Well, the Greek word used for faith in the New Testament is pistis, and contrary to what Raw says, pistis doesn't mean an assertion to unreasonable conviction, assumed without reason, and defended against all reason. In fact,
of course, this guy's pulling the classic. Well, let's go back to the original Greek, which doesn't necessarily have the meaning that the original writers meant, which we don't know what they meant since we don't have their own original texts, let alone, Cliff's notes and, annotations from them on what they actually meant here. But the Greek be damned. What matters is in this moment, in this understanding of the religious construct, how the word is used. The usage is what matters. The meaning behind the concept is what matters, not necessarily explicitly definitions. And while, yes, ARON was using definitions to elucidate on this meaning, this understanding of it, that was focusing on the current usage, the current understanding of the concept, and thus ascribing definitions to it, as opposed to going back and trying to be like, oh, well, faith doesn't mean that. Well, cool doesn't mean something's awesome. It means a low temperature, but hey, look, some point in the 20th century, we started using the word cool to describe things that we approved of. It's just how things work. Languages evolve. Well, I'm not one for the idea that you can just say whatever the hell you want and it's perfectly fine. Still, things change, concepts change, meanings change, usages change over time, over generations, over isolated pockets. So this going back to the original Greek means precisely bugger all.
In fact, pistis doesn't connote blind faith or believe in things without evidence at all. As a noun, pistis is used as a technical rhetorical term for forensic proof. The word can be used to convey confidence, belief, assurance, and conviction, but essentially the word means trust or loyalty. And trust isn't too hard to understand. When you say that you trust someone, you don't mean that you trust them for no.
And here he goes. This dude is pulling the, faith means trust. No, it doesn't. Religious faith does not mean trust in the same way that I trust this chair will support my ass. That I trust when I pick up this phone, I'll get dial tone. Which honestly might not happen. Let's see. Oh, good. My system hasn't broken completely. Dial tone. I could check the weather. I'd rather be playing with my phones than doing this, but that ain't profitable. What was I going at anyway? Yeah, you're pulling the classic faith means trust thing, and that's just not the case. That's not what faith in religious context actually means when you look at how it's actually used, what is invoked by it, what ideas are invoked. It's that simple.
No good reason at all. You mean you trust them because you have good reasons to believe what they say. That's precisely what's meant here. The New Testament writers also understood faith to convey loyalty to God. In other words, we're trusting God who gave us the tangible gift of Christ to show us that we can trust him, and we should...
Yes, tangible. Because, I've totally seen a Christ. Have you guys seen a Christ? I sure haven't. I mean, I'm a Chris. Looked in the mirror and seen myself. Am I Jesus? Which honestly, I wonder how far I could get into a debate with Kent Hovind if I stressed repeatedly that I'm Jesus. Just straight up. Went fully into it. Wonder how far I'd go.
Therefore be reliable servants to God to show our gratitude. In both cases, trust and loyalty were based on someone or something that they consider to be reliable based on reasons or evidence. So now let's hear again how Aaron Ra defines faith, and then examine each of his arguments for why he defines it.
Yes, but Stacy, your phone number is not 767-2676.
It that way.
That faith is an assertion of unreasonable conviction assumed without reason and defended against all reason, meaning that people of strong faith refuse to reason, reject reason, and will not be reasoned with, according to a consensus of dictionaries.
Leaving aside that faith has several meanings today, such as trust, a system of religious belief, confidence, and so.
But the word's broad meaning is irrelevant. What matters is the context it's actually being used in and what meaning can be extrapolated from that usage. It's that simple. Is this the level of arguments we're going to get? Because being nice here, bro, I really expected more. Now, I like your presentation. I like your production work. Although I feel it's a little overdone at the same rate. It's kind of neat, the little static in and out. Gets a little old, but I see where you're going. I don't understand your color grading for your shots. But that's neither here nor there. I can't color grade for shit. But, man, if these are the best arguments you got, you're not making ARON look bad. At worst, you're just demonstrating he's a little bit verbose, which is a quirk of his, one I like, but it also becomes white noise at a point. Like, I'll be serious. I love watching ARON Ra videos, but sometimes when he gets into a bit of a stretch with things, it's like, oh man, ARON, just move along with it. I love the info, but I'm tuning out here. It's me and ADD, though, I'm sure.
So on, even if the dictionary did define faith only as blind faith, which it doesn't, that still wouldn't help demonstrate its point. As I explained in my video on slavery, language is always changing and evolving. The word gay used to be understood to mean happy, but more recently
I still use it that way. Look, when's the last time you saw... I'm not going to go where I was going to with the joke. Because, yeah. I'll use it to be happy sometimes. Usually for the fun of it, for the anachronistic quality. Yeah, common usage has changed. But I don't go back to the Flintstones theme. I don't go back to that one Christmas song, talking about gay apparel and actively think they mean something homosexual. Having a gay old time in the Flintstones doesn't mean Fred and Barney are going to a skeezy motel. I understand that meaning because I understand the context. I understand the time. I understand word usage. All that stuff matters. And what matters is the usage now. And yes, I'm hyper-focusing on this. Partly because I'm working to exactly articulate that argument if it ever comes up again in the future. And that's actually what you get with these live streams is a lot of times you get to be sort of sitting in the corner listening as I work out the best way to approach and articulate my counterpoints to a lot of statements. I appreciate you for being around listening to that. It helps.
understand the word to refer to homosexuality. And today, some people use the word informally to refer to things instead of people, which is another way of calling those things stupid or unimpressive. Now, of course, there's countless examples like this, but the point is that arguing from modern dictionaries doesn't do much to make a point. If you want to understand what
Rosina with a super chat, 199. I've seen the super buff Mormon Jesus. Mormon Jesus, endless celestial sex. Am I right?
Anyone means by a specific word, especially a word that has multiple meanings like the word faith, then you should have them define it for you and also consider the word in the context that it's being used in. Since we're talking about the Bible, we want to know what the Bible means by faith. Now, since we already covered that, now we can take a look at the context of the passages that he cites, and that way we can see how the word is being used. Ross says that faith is first what's assumed without reason, and second, defended against all reason.
Yes. Because if someone says they have faith in the Christian God, they're usually presupposing the deity exists because Magic Book says such. And when presented with reasons to believe alternate deities, I'm not even saying those are good, but I'm just saying they're reasons, quote unquote, presented with reasons to not believe in that deity or to be shown that evidently the deity doesn't exist, all you get is basically a nuh-uh. It's really sad.
Defended against all reason.
Well, that's not only news to me, but it would also have been news to God, Paul, Jesus, the apostles, and so on. Was Jesus telling people to assume without reason that he was the Messiah? Like the time when John's disciples asked Jesus if he was the Christ, and Jesus literally told them to go check the book of Isaiah to check to see if the blind see, the lame walk, and the lepers are clean.
Okay, but see, that's all inside of your book, and the whole purpose of your book is to defend the story within the book. So we need something outside of your magic book of garbage. You know, Goat Herder's Guide to the Galaxy, to corroborate anything in there. And I don't mean just places exist in reality and existed in the book, of course, because it's the setting is here on Earth, for the most part. What we're talking about is something credible, like third-party accounts of this deity, of these, you know, all these woken dead running around Jerusalem or whatever happened. You think that would be something people would make note of? Oh, hey, all the dead came back to life on Tuesday. That was something. And to strike them down, you know, it was a bit of a mess, but we got it done. Half the town survived. It's a new record. You know, you think there'd be something, but no.
Because of his works. And there's several examples like this. Jesus was telling them to believe that he was the Christ because of the evidence, not because there was no evidence. And what about the Apostle Paul? Was Paul defending blind faith against all reason when he said that if Jesus didn't raise from the dead, then we have no hope and we're to be pitied above all men? Sounds to me like he's given them a reason to reject Christianity, namely if the resurrection didn't occur and it wasn't a fact. In the scriptures, we read over and over how Jesus and the...
Wow, I apologize. I didn't know we'd get a cut rate Amot here. I really expected more. Maybe that's the fun fact about Ken Hovind, is that he just goes off on his own tangents and sometimes refers back to the Bible, but otherwise has that script and routine he's going, whereas this guy is like, he's just running the Bible. At least Hovind has some originality to his garbage.
apostles gave evidence for believing that Christ was who he said he was, and they used this evidence in evangelism. They would tell people to believe that Christ was the Messiah, not only because of the evidence of the miracles that Jesus performed, but also the prophecies from the Old Testament that Christ fulfilled.
Okay, you were talking about evidence there. All right, bring me some fucking evidence, all right? Bring my audience some fucking evidence. Magic Sky Daddy and Magic Sky Daddy 2.0, Jewish Carpenter Boogaloo can pop up and do whatever the hell they want back then, but they don't do jack diddly shit now, except help people find their car keys, help sports teams win, and apparently ensure that during, disasters wiping out entire cities, that some random Bible magically stays face up and, unburned. Doesn't matter how many people suffer, how many people die, how much property's damaged, pets lost, lives destroyed. Nope. All that matters is that Magic Stupid Book survived. Praise Jesus. Yeah.
The fact that the tomb was empty, for them to consider
the fact there was no tomb, there wasn't any empty tomb because there was no tomb, the fact that the Romans left the corpses out to rot, actual historical evidence and understanding of this process, because Jesus would have been nothing special to the Romans, would have just been another stupid criminal. Come on.
reason, the logic, the eyewitnesses to Jesus after he's been resurrected, and so on. Now, couple that with the fact that they never once told someone to believe without evidence or reasons, or even as a substitute for evidence or reason. This fact alone should be enough to see that quote mining for verses that you think show that the Bible supports blind faith is not an honest way to look at the scriptures. So how did Raw come to such a radically different...
Yes, and all the honest ways to look at everything. Honest like manipulating it to fit your narrative to support itself, and probably ignoring all the horrific things contained in the text. Yep. I'd love to get your take on slavery, on women's rights, all that shit.
Different conclusion by pointing to the scriptures to justify his claims. Now, I will say I'm glad that he does at least reference the Bible, because if you want to know what the Bible means by faith, you should probably go to the Bible first to make your case. So let's see what verse...
Okay, let's see where you're going with this, buddy. So far you're not winning me over, but all right, let's take a look at this. I'm listening.
Verses he references in support of his conclusion.
Scriptural references.
Okay, so it looks like he cited 5 verses. So let's go ahead and take a look at each in turn. John 20, verse 29. Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet have believed."
Yes, I'd love for you to tell me how that equates to anything other than quite literally blind faith.
Okay, so it seems that he believes that this verse shows that blind faith is encouraged. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, because the word blessed isn't super clear in English, it's worth noting that the Greek word being used for blessed connotes being fortunate, happy, or well off. So the verse is saying, those who haven't seen me in the flesh and still believe are fortunate or happy. This verse is an encouraging belief.
More of the Greek bullshit. Okay. Languages don't translate cleanly, right? Just saying.
Believing without reasons or evidence. If it were, then why do the next sentences say, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. Now notice what John didn't say. He didn't say that there
Other stuff happened. It wasn't important enough to write down, but you gotta trust me, bro.
were miracles done, but I didn't record them or mention them because you just need to believe without reasons or evidence. Instead, John is literally offering evidence of miracles as reasons that you should believe that Jesus is the Messiah. He's providing reasons, not given a lack
But no, he was completely doing the first thing. What are you talking about, dude?
of reasons for why you should believe that Christ is the Messiah. It's kind of like in a jury, how they let the eyewitnesses speak so that way the people can have evidence to inform the decision.
And what is it with apologists and these constant references to court cases and like the criminal justice system? It's not the same thing, dude.
Next verse is Romans 1:20. It reads, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." Now, I've got to admit, I've never once heard anyone use this verse as a way to show that the Bible commands us to have blind faith or to argue that faith is essential to believing in God. First of all, I'm not even sure why he chose this verse to argue his points, given that the word faith isn't even in the verse, nor is the Greek word pistis being used. Paul seems to be talking about how the vastness and the
Again, because the concept being implied. You don't seem to understand the concept of implied concepts.
complexity of the world reveals God's creation and divine power. So that would literally be an appeal to reasons and evidence, not blind faith. Again, even if you don't think that the vastness and the complexity of the universe is good evidence, that's beside the point. The point is that they aren't encouraged to believe in God without evidence or as a supplement for evidence. The next verse is Romans 14:22. It reads, "So whatever you believe about these things, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves, but whoever has doubts is condemned if they eat, because their eating is not from faith, and everything that does not come from faith is sin." So where does this verse appeal to believing in God based on a lack of evidence?
Again, the implication is that the best value any feeling can have, that the best way to go about this is simply on faith. Nothing more. Are you literate enough to be having this conversation? Like, I don't mean to be mean, dude, but it seems pretty cut and dry right there.
That's not even remotely what this verse is about. This verse is talking about faith in the sense of loyalty and faithfulness, as we explained earlier. It's about the members of the Roman Church not violating their conscience or their personal convictions before God and our relationships with fellow Christians. It's not at all talking about having faith in God. The next on his list is 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So the word faith isn't being used in this verse either. So he seems to be referring to the concept of faith as he understands it. Now
Yeah, the concept that's being used throughout the text over and over again.
he seems to think that this passage means having an unreasonable conviction and an unreasonable belief without evidence. Well, again, when the verse says that we fix our eyes not on what is seen but is unseen, it's talking about looking forward to eternity, which we can't see right now because it's in the future. As for
Yes, which means there's no reason to believe it exists. Especially if it's quote-unquote in the future, because the implication there is that it currently doesn't exist. It's weird how language and discussing the concept of time works. You might want to rephrase that.
the second part, which reads, since what is seen is temporary, that's actually an empirical fact. It's confirmed by modern science and the second law of thermodynamics. The last part.
Oh, there we go. Take a shot. He said thermodynamics. You don't know jack diddly shit about thermodynamics, bro. I'm amazed you can turn on the hot water to take a damn shower at this stage.
Reads, what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Now, if I had more time, I would love to argue why this is logical as well. This plays in a
You have all the time you want. It's your fucking video.
why I believe that the soul logically outlives the body, and goes into other arguments that I just don't have the space to unpack here, but I'll eventually do a video on it, so for now, let's just go ahead and keep it moving. 2 Corinthians 5:7, for we live by faith, not by sight. If you read the surrounding verses in this section, verses 1 through 10, you'll see that in this entire section, Paul is talking about being with
You're taking it out of context.
Christ one day. He isn't denying evidence that may contradict our beliefs or asserting that you should believe in God on the basis of no evidence at all. He's literally just saying that we look forward to our own resurrections just as Christ has been resurrected. Earlier, he argues that we know that we'll overcome death and be resurrected one day because Christ overcame death and was resurrected. The final verse is Hebrews.
You got some proof of that? That ain't in Bronze Age bullshit? Nope. Alright, then you're just asserting crap.
Hebrews 11:1, and this is by far the best verse that he brought to the table, but it's also a verse that doesn't really show what he thinks it does. Let's read it along with verse 2. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. So who are the ancients being referred to? They're the great people
Oh, man. Are we about to get into some, like, Final Fantasy VII shit with the Sentra?
of faith that the author starts naming in verse 4. Notice that out of all of the great people of faith mentioned in Hebrews 11, none of them believed based on a lack of evidence. They believed based on and because of the evidence that was given to them. A lot of them thought back and reflected on God's faithfulness in the past and reasoned that since he was faithful in the past, they can trust him in the future. None of them believed based on a lack of evidence. Okay, so that was his list. On a scale from 1 to 10, how impressed are you? Well, maybe you'll be
I ain't writing shit down below. I ain't engaging with this stupid audience. Also, this video's 5 years old. May 7th, 2019. I ain't dealing with it. Wow, can you flag any more of your videos in there? I think if people want to watch your videos, bro, they just go to your channel.
even more impressed with his next point.
According to a consensus of dictionaries, scriptural references, hymns, sermons of theologians past and present.
Next, he says that hymns confirm his point, but oddly, he only lists 2 sentences and from the same person. In support of his claim that sermons and theologians share his understanding of faith, past and present, he quotes one theologian from the past and one from the present.
Yes, because he's supposed to spend the entire video just putting up citation after 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 citation. Just to please you.
One from the past is taken from a commentary by Martin Luther, who
Also just notice this guy has ear gauges, which is fine. But I wonder how Ken Hovind would react to that. You know, it really, seriously. And I know we always go back to Kent. It's like the glue that holds this bullshit burrito together. But I really love to see how he reacts to different particular people who defend Christianity and religion who are atypical from his preferred 1950s Leave It to Beaver clean cut image.
Was a theologian, but the quote doesn't come from a sermon. It came from his commentary on a Bible passage in the year 1535. Now, what about the sermon from the more recent theologian? That one is from the theologian... Wait, that isn't a quote from a present theologian. He's not even a theologian at all. That's a quote from the atheist Dan Barker, who was a pastor in the 70s and the early 80s and has been an activist for atheism since 1984. Nor does it seem that this is from a sermon, since he's literally quoting Barker from Barker's own book on atheism. Then he has the nerves to label the quote as coming from Reverend Dan Barker. I mean, it's as if he thinks that his subscribers are too dumb or too lazy to check any of the sources that he puts on his screen. Think about how telling it is that he had to quote Dan Barker here. Now, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that he seems to be grasping at straws, but I mean, what do I...
No, I don't know the details here, but I'm pretty sure there's a reason he went that route in that particular bit. I don't remember the video in full, although I don't think this really came up in detail. But I imagine there's something about the Dan Barker story that I'm totally not aware of, that you're totally not aware of, and in context would make that make a lot of sense, because ARON seems to be pretty good at making things that fit together nicely. You look at the individual pieces, it's a weird puzzle. Don't see how it'll go together. Then all of a sudden it fits. Which is part of why he goes on a long time about some subjects, because he's really detailed in his orchestration of the chaos as such to make it into some kind of order. Those thoughts, those ideas. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. Just people will be like, "Oh, Chris, you just like ARON, so you're defending him." It's like, not necessarily defending this. I feel like there's probably a reason that I'm not privy to, nor are you, that is, like a better term, just lost on probably a lot of us.
I know, I'm just a gullible Christian.
But I also don't necessarily care about the sources he cites. The idea holds true, the verbiage holds true in my understanding of the concepts as well, and how they're actually applied by people. So the citations are kind of irrelevant.
Who doesn't know the difference between the tooth fairy and Jesus, right? So I guess we can say that his list was a little less than impressive, but as you know, I can be a nice guy once in a while, and today, I'm feeling a little extra nicey. So let's pretend that he had thousands of quotes from Christians throughout the centuries who understand faith in the exact same way that he does. Now, what follows from that? Does that mean that the Bible teaches blind faith? Well, as we said before, if you want to know what the Bible means by faith, you've got to go to the Bible. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what other people believe. Personally, I couldn't...
No, it kind of does. Because what's being talked about is what the way people are using the word, using the concept. I cannot stress that enough. That's the focus. Damn your definitions, damn ARON's definitions. What matters is how people use them. You actually use the words. And faith means, to the average Christian, exactly what he described. The actual concepts being described.
Care less if his definition were shared by every pastor and every modern dictionary in the entire universe. That doesn't change what the Bible actually teaches that faith is. And what the Bible doesn't teach is that faith is blind and has nothing to do with evidence. Even the Christians who aren't into apologetics will cite personal or subjective evidence in support of their faith. Now, you may disagree with the quality of the evidence, and maybe even rightly so, but that's not the point. The point is that the vast majority of Christians don't understand the word faith to mean belief founded on no evidence at all, as Raw asserts. Your disagreement with them would just be over what counts as evidence.
It is never wise to be completely convinced of anything told by another without question, without reservation, or without reason, or simply to assume anything without precedent or parallel, especially in the absence of verifiable evidence and despite all the overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Hey, I couldn't have said that better myself.
That is about as irrational as it is possible to be.
So we're all clear here. According to Aaron Raw, to be the most irrational that you could possibly be is being, and I quote, completely convinced of anything told by another without question, without reservation, or without reason, or simply to assume anything without precedent or parallel, especially in the absence of verifiable evidence or despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Given what he said, we should expect such a reasonable and fact-following guy to be moved by the overwhelming evidence to the contrary and admit that he's wrong on this one. Wouldn't you agree?
The conclusion that God exists doesn't require faith.
You know better than that. Yes, it absolutely does, and as a Christian, you know that it does.
No, following an inference to the best explanation does not require faith. Again, faith is trust or loyalty, not a blind leap in the
Except it's not in the religious context, full stop. None of the usage explicitly implies that. It violates the very logics of trust and faith. Or trust in, God damn it, wordage.
best explanation does not require faith. Again, faith is trust or loyalty, not a blind
The religious faith is not trust. Loyalty, whatever. One could argue that, like, a dog is faithful, sure. But trust? No. No, see, you're rocking with three different ideas here. The religious faith, the loyal faith, and the trust faith. Those are three separate words. Three separate concepts. Stop with the equivocation. Just stop.
leap in the dark. It doesn't take faith to reason by inference to the best explanation.
A firm conviction without any evidence is necessary for your belief system. That's why it's praised throughout your doctrine and promoted as the highest priority and an obligate requirement of salvation. You know better than that.
My goodness, it's praised because it's putting your trust in Christ or being loyal to Christ. But due to the fact that he has a
You know, take out the T and just put your faith in Chris. Yeah, I'll never steer you wrong. And if I do, I'm going down with the bus. Just like that episode of The Simpsons when Otto somehow gets the bus in the ocean and the kids are stranded on that island. And Otto keeps swimming and is picked up by like this like shipping vessel and it's fucking shanghaied. And then at the end they're rescued by, I don't know, Mo. After they find the bear and they're eating the boar, excuse me. And Lisa instead has to lick crud on rocks because she's a vegetarian and she didn't want to eat the boar. And that's a Simpsons episode I kind of like. I forget the name of it.
definition of faith that the Bible doesn't even agree with, and led him to go on his weird preachy rant thingy, barking at this gigantic man made of straw that he created.
Atheism requires faith.
I'm not just an atheist and an anti-theist. I'm an epistivist.
God damn it. I had myself muted for a second. Fun fact, that little pistivus symbol. Actually, there's a way that if you use packaging tape and print on an inkjet printer, no, laserjet printer, there's a way to dissolve the paper to leave just the printing, and you turn it into basically a bootleg water slide decal. And on my Squire Strat from high school, the body of it, it basically needs a refretter, a new neck, and whole new electronics. As I was doing the refurb before I realized how bad a shape it was always in, I put that as one of the symbols on it. So that's kind of cool.
That means that I reject faith as being the most dishonest position it is possible to have.
And there it is again, the word dishonest, which is a favorite of atheists who misunderstand your position or assume that you have their bad objections in mind when you record your video, and always conclude that
Yes, the Lord of the Flies episode. It is a solid episode. And like some people with The Simpsons are like, oh, season 3 is what stopped being good. Season 4, season 5. The first 10 seasons, I find some joy in. After that, it gets a little iffy. Episodes I really enjoy become less and less. My favorites, I think, are season 6 and 7. But I mean, season 4 is fucking amazing. All the early seasons are good. But then I still find myself catching episodes post season 20. Because that's like the furthest up I will just watch before I'm like, okay, I'm going to reset back. And I'll still find episodes I enjoy. I'll be on break at work and, watching some, and it's like, oh, hey, this is nice. That's nice. But love me some classic Simpsons.
you must always be intentionally lying because they disagree with you. I mean, even if you are wrong, to these guys, it's not enough for you to just be wrong or even ignorant about something. No, you have to be dishonest and a liar. That's how they roll. And of course, they couldn't possibly consider that maybe they're actually the ones that are wrong or not know the same stuff that you know. Is a mantra for those suffering from ARCS, which is an extremely tragic condition.
It really is inherently dishonest, and you already know that it is. That's why you assert as fact things that are not evidently true. That's why you just told both of the lies you just did, lies of projection and equivocation.
So apparently, it wasn't enough for just faith to be the most dishonest position that a person could possibly have, but also that Kraft couldn't just be wrong or misunderstood, or that Raw couldn't be wrong about the word faith. Instead, Kraft must be intentionally lying.
I see it from theists all the time, but understand that you don't have evidence and we don't have faith.
As for Kraft, when it comes to saying that
See, if this guy knows ARON worth a damn, he'd understand that the constant false equivocation that atheists have faith, literally in things like the book, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, is a real sticking point because it's indescribably dishonest. And that's what he's focusing on. And if I remember correctly, is more of the general focus of this video. Both, I think, the original PragerU video being reacted to and ARON's counterpoints are on that. Or the Prager video, I should say, is trying to assert that atheists have faith.
Atheists have faith, he seems to just be making a rhetorical point by using the word faith in the way that Ra was using it to make his point. The point seems clearly rhetorical.
In order to preserve a preferred belief, you're trying to distance yourself.
Hey, you gotta give me credit. I own up to when stuff screws up, and I try my best. For the amount I click this button, you know, I do a pretty good job most of the time being on when I need to and off when I need to.
From faith and trying to project all your own faults onto those who will not share any of those flaws, misrepresenting our position as a straw man fallacy. I won't let you do that.
Well, Aaron, consider me returning the favor. You've misrepresented our position, which is a straw man fallacy. You say that Kraft knows better and that faith is really just an assertion assumed without evidence and defended against all evidence, but in reality, that isn't what Kraft is arguing from, nor is it what Christianity teaches. Now,
Yeah, I have no idea what ARCS is either. If anyone can enlighten us before this video is over, feel free.
be clear, most of the YouTube channels that I watch, like Cosmic Skeptic or Matt Dillahunty or Genetically Modified...
Are you taking the piss, bro? Matt Dillahunty? Is he a goddamn Pokemon? Your Baptist preacher evolved into Dillahunty. No, you're done. Dude, we gotta hear that again.
Most of the YouTube channels that I watch, like Cosmic Skeptic or Matt Dillahunty or...
Matt Dillahunty. Oh, that made this so worth it. Also, isn't it nice for me to stream and, only get a chance to laugh like that instead of having to get super pissed? It's a rare treat. Squeaky chair.
Or Genetically Modified Skeptic and others, in my view, their videos are light years better than this. So I don't want to give off the impression that this video represents the best that atheists have. I promise you, it doesn't. But
no, that video is just a focused look at the false equivalence problem with faith. That's what I, again, think I recall in this as I think back. That's just focusing on that subject has jack diddly fuck to do with the rest of the concept of atheism or anything else that we actually believe or lack belief in.
With that, if you want to accuse me of attacking low-hanging fruit by responding to this video, let's just say that I wouldn't call you dishonest.
No, and I'm being very serious here. I would not call this at all low-hanging fruit. You saw something you wanted to focus on and produced a video on it. And honestly, while I disagree with you and have several questions, this has been a fine video insofar as you doing what you wanted to do. You did what you felt like doing. It's got just shy of 60,000 views. It's not too shabby. So no, you're fine, dude. Just disagree with you and I have several questions on the mispronunciations, but being serious for a moment, stuff happens. I laugh because it's more funny that it's Matt Dillahunty, and I just imagine him as a ghost Pokemon saying, "No, you're done," and his final attack is hang up, rather than just the fact that you don't say Matt Dillahunty. It's just weird, Yeah, I'm weird about pronunciations, and I mispronounce things all the freaking time. Even when I'm correct, I mispronounce it according to some people. But we're not getting into that debate again.
What's so bad about this is that if anyone should know what the Bible says about faith, I would assume it would be the former president of the Atheist Alliance of America, who served as the regional director of the American Atheists. I mean, shouldn't a necessary qualification be having a basic understanding of the Bible that they spend so much of their time criticizing?
No. And you see, you're subtly hinting at that. If you don't believe, why do you spend so much time? Because it impacts life so drastically. Look at what's going on anywhere in this country right now. Maybe it's an issue. And maybe we feel things would be generally better if you idiots would stop reputing a bunch of Bronze Age bullshit as the way we should live and how things should be judged, and start using actual reason, rationality, base logic, understanding, empathy, etc.
Or not? Well, there you have it. And there's plenty more in the video that we weren't able to get into today. But of course, the link is in the description. And if you want me to do a video on the rest of it, or another point brought up in the video, which I'd love to do, by the way, just go ahead and let me know down below. And if
Oh yeah, I totally want to do this, but I want to make sure you leave a comment down below, because that's engagement farming, and that's what I want to do, because I'm playing the YouTube game, because all I care about is the YouTube game and not even necessarily what I say. And we all play that to different extents, but I ain't all about that just begging for engagement. If you want to, cool. I'll remind you. I've heard the subscribe button does stuff when we say it, so, I'll pull the YouTuber thing of, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I think it only works, not in live streams, but after the fact. Like the video and comment and all that shit if you want to. I don't care, though. I do the live streams to hang out with my friends and us to have some fun, and I right-click out of habit for some reason. Let's continue.
if enough people request it, then I will. And if not, then I'll just see you on the next one. So peace out, meme team. And before I go, the next time that Aaron Raw says pretty much anything that he said in that,
Didn't even say Aaron Raw. He didn't say Aaron Raw. He went Aaron Raw, like added a bit as if the W was there for the word raw, like raw meat. Is that like raw mat?
video, what are you gonna say? What do you mean?
Oh, that was stupid. Oh, that ending. Alright. Whatever, you got your shtick. Just gonna close that. Aaron Raw, exactly. Alright, well, that was a video. That was something I decided to watch and decided to stream. We had fun, I think. At least I got to laugh a bit. Can't believe it took 45 minutes to get through that, but it is a video reaction to stuff. So whatever. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it per se, but I ain't gonna give dude shit. That's where I stand on it. It's also 5 years old, so it's whatever. Man, Otaku, next you're gonna tell me that water's wet. Although that itself is a debate, because wet is the property of things having water on them, so water can't be wet. But let's not get into details. I just wanted to make the joke. But yeah, Otaku's got that right. A religious video was stupid? I'm shocked. Yeah. I didn't really expect anything else, but I had slightly higher hopes that maybe there'd be a bit more to it, and there wasn't. So that's gonna end this stream. I'm kind of feeling like doing another stream. Uh it's fucking raw. Stacy, always with the laughs. Kind of feel like doing another stream. So water is in the water. Water everywhere, and not a button for Hovend. Water. I don't know. Do you guys want an immediate follow-up that is Hovend? Do you want something different? At this stage, I am now just waiting for y'all's responses. So if anyone is watching after the fact, this stream is effectively over. Just, let me know. Oh, that makes me a bit of a hypocrite. I have lots of videos on Buddhism. I'm cool with Buddhism. We'll fill your vase with tomatoes. Tomato, 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 tomato. Basically, this week's videos I find stupid, I guess. Water. Excuse me. Water. Hovend. We got 20 viewers now. The stream's practically over. Come on. Everyone just let me know what you want to see next. Quickly, before I pick for you. I don't want to sit here on, dead air forever. Do you want Hovend? Do you want Matt Powell? Do you want more not ambush apostate? That's our friend. More of Amot. I got the energy for Amot, surprisingly. You let me know. First person to give me a suggestion wins. Have we finished all of the Hovend response to the debate? No. You know what? We'll do that next. We'll do the next part. Stick around. Stick around, and we'll see. I think we'll do that next. Don't drown in the water. Stacy with I fucking dare you. You dare me to what? You dare me to what, mate? All right, so I guess with Laura's request, we're going to the next Hovend video on the debate between him and Mr. Nelson. It's a Mr. Nelson kind of day here at Zadar Entertainment. Want Matt Powell like I want syphilis. All right, so the pecking order goes Hovend, Amot, Matt Powell. Hovend. All right, we got votes for Hovend. Okay. Let me set up the stream. I'm going to cool down just a little bit. This is seriously going to be like 5-10 minutes tops. Probably it's 1:23 my time. 1:30. I'm just going to go on and get this set up real quick, and we'll make it happen. So I'll catch y'all in